Hi, I'm Hoodie here, and this is the story of the founding of New Dwarf City. I embarked once again in the world of Thadar Zurko, where 10 former forts of mine already lay dormant after being used up and cast aside in my many schemes over the 40 years that had passed since world generation ended. These schemes had been largely location dependent, a volcano, a tundra, a good biome, and so on. But if I didn't slow my roll and settle down a little bit, I would run out of good low-hassle embark sites before long. With that in mind, and with my list of non-location specific ideas growing longer by the day, I picked a suitable spot in the wilderness to establish a more long-term home, and went to work putting it together. As a hub for future projects, I wanted it to have all the basics covered, and that meant all the workshops. The main hub was equipped with all the most used furnaces and workshops, but I made sure to add on a wing for clothes production, as well as a walled-off section on the surface for tanning, butchering, fishing, and other stuff like that. Along with workshops came offices and guild halls on the production layer to improve workshop workflows and workers' skills. However, none of that would matter without food to keep the fortress running, and so deep below the fortress proper we broke into our first cavern, and quickly went to work building and then closing off a farm that could use the rich cavern soil to support the fortress with food. That food would make its way up from the farm to the food storage level, where it would sit and wait to be either eaten or turned into wine. Sandwiched between that food storage level and the production level above, we built the recreation and accommodation floor, which had a tavern at its center, rooms along the edges, and temples in the corners. Perfect for dwarves that wanted to drink the night away, pass out at home, and then repent in the morning. While putting the fort together, I did my best to fulfill the demands of all the dwarves who entered strange moods, because I wanted to use the artifacts to raise the value of my guild halls and temples. But sometimes a dwarf asks for raw green glass in the middle of a forest, and you have no choice but to kill him when the caravan doesn't bring any and he goes berserk. In addition to creating artifacts, we also found an artifact by digging around in a volcanic wall studded with gems. Allegedly a treasure of the gods, it was a multicolored metal whip, and it was placed in the mining guild hall to motivate them to dig deeper and more greedily than ever before. With all of this in place, the main thing left to wait for was more population that could be used as workers, builders, or test subjects on future projects. Of course, some of the less skilled among them also had to be funneled into the peasant army to defend the fortress. Over the course of the fortress setup, the army gradually grew in both numbers and competence, and took on bigger and bigger foes. They began with a goblin snatcher, stretched to take out a frail giant, and by the time the fortress was done, they handily dealt with a simultaneous goblin siege / kobold thief raid / goblin child snatcher attempt with only a single loss. Having gotten close to the population cap, and with all the setup out of the way, I'd say New Dwarf City is now project ready, and I'm looking forward to seeing how weird it will get. A dog park for Beak Dogs Part 2 perhaps? Whatever we end up getting up to. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.